All right, so this quick little lesson is just an introduction to proofs. We're going to do one example, and what I want to tell you before we start this example is that proofs, it's really just like showing your work. It's kind of something that makes geometry a little bit different than algebra, in that you have to show every single step and explain why you're doing it. And you'll kind of understand why we do that whenever you see some more examples later on in this class. So let's go ahead and look at an example that you all know how to do. So for instance, we've actually done this example already before. It says the two triangles are congruent and asks us to find AB. And you all know if we're going to do that, we have to figure out what AB is congruent to, and that is DE. Okay, so the one thing to note about proofs is that we organize them in terms of steps and then in terms of reasons. And we do that well, like I said, so it can be organized. So the first step we just said would be to actually state what they already told us. So we're going to say ABC, triangle ABC, is congruent to triangle DEF. And we already knew that because they gave it to us. So the reason that they use when we do these is called given. All right, another thing that's given, and this is going to probably seem really silly to write down, is the picture. There's some information on the picture that we're going to have to use, so we're going to list that as something that's been given to us also. All right, so now step 3. We just said, we already figured out that AB is congruent to DE, and we know that because we matched up the corresponding parts of that statement. So what we're going to say is that corresponding parts, and corresponding is just a word that means the ones that match up. We're going to say that corresponding parts are congruent. All right, and you can write out the word congruent, but I'm pretty lazy in these because I don't want to write more than I have to. All right, so now we're going to look at our picture the same way that we would if we were solving this like normal and figure out what A, B, and D, E are. So here AB is 3x plus 8, and DE is 5x. Now I got those values from the picture and I plugged them in to my equation. So that step about plugging in is really called substitution. And you're not maybe going to have to do one of these all completely on your own, but you need to understand like how the reasons match with the steps, so that we can be able to do one of these, at least put it in order when we work a few of these later on. All right, so step 5 then would be to solve that equation, and we're actually going to write out all the steps we're doing there too. So you can write for yourself if you want to. I think you see we should subtract 3x here, and then I'm going to write down my new step, or my new equation says 8 equals 2x. So the step I used just then was subtraction. So that's all I'm writing is subtraction because I did. And if you want to write like minus 3x to say what step we did, you can do that. All right. Then I'm going to divide that, and that's going to give me that x equals 4. Or you can write 4 equals x or x equals 4, whichever one you want. The step I just did then was division. And I'm going to say by 2. That's just me making notes for you all. And then the question is asking me to find the value of AB. So I actually need to plug back in this value of 4. So I'm going to say that AB equals, I know AB it says is 3x plus 8. Well, I'm going to say AB is 3 times 4 plus 8. And I plugged that in, so I'm going to call that substitution. And then my last step is just going to be to simplify that. So you could use a calculator if you needed to, but 3 times 4 is 12, and 12 plus 8 is 20, so I know that AB equals 20. And you can call that simplifying if you want to, but they're going to call it substitution also. Can't talk and write at the same time. They're going to call that substitution also because they're saying that this 3 times 4 plus 8 is the same as 20. You're just substituting an equal value. All right, so have that example, and we'll work on some of those together.